This investigation uses a classic fairy tale to teach students about the properties of substances by Sabine Strehler. The structure of this lesson sequence follows the 5E model. Lentils in the Ashes, Room for Discoveries. That was the title of the lesson. Engage is the first part of the 5E model. The teacher told the students that in Cinderella's tale, the evil stepmother stops her from going to the dance by throwing lentils into ash and instructing her to pick the lentils out again. Cinderella chooses a special method to finish the task. She asks birds for help. After students listened to the fairy tale, the teacher presented to them a large bowl containing ashes and lentils, then asked them, what if the birds had not done the separation for Cinderella? Which alternatives would she have had? After engaging the students, it was time to explore. The students gave answers and wanted to try out their own ideas. They mainly suggested sifting. Other ideas include the mixture should be put into a big, flat bowl or in a cloth. If it's thrown outside, the wind will blow away the ash, the lentils will fall back into the bowl. Another idea was the ash could also be blown away with a hairdryer. And the last idea was to add water to the mixture. The students expected the lentils to sink and the ash to float, so the ash could be poured off with the water. The student wrote down their ideas on a record sheet. The students then were ready to test their ideas, but some safety concerns needed to be addressed, such as wearing goggles and washing hands with soap and water. The portion of the activity was done outside. Students worked in group of 3. Each group were given 3 tablespoons of the mixture to try out their ideas. They recorded on their own record sheets. After the explore part, the students shared their different ideas and experiences with the class in a discussion. The students discussed which ideas achieved the best results. Blowing and sifting worked well. Adding water to the mixture was not very successful because part of the ashes sink in the water. The teacher and the students reflected on the various separation methods they have in common, that they take advantage of the different properties of the ash and the lentils. The particle size when sifting too. The difference in weight when blowing, the students finally agreed on sifting as the best successful method because it does not result in a mess and it's fast and effective. And they recommended this method to Cinderella. After the explain part, it was time to elaborate. The teacher asked the following question. What could we have done if the evil stepmother had been particularly mean and asked her to separate a mixture of salt, iron, plastic, and sand into its components? Students collaborated to plan and conduct a sequence of investigations in which the number and order of steps is essential. The teacher designed the separation task as a competition. She gave every group a defined amount of mixture, 4 grams of salt, sand, plastic beads, and iron filings. The goal for the students was to recover the given amount of substances in a pure form. Then, some safety cautions were addressed too. Before starting the competition, the students learned to use a scale. The scale was necessary to compare the results of the recovered amount of salt, iron, and sand and plastic with the original amount. The teacher used a digital scale in her class and demonstrated the tier function for the students. The students were given a record sheet that offers a plan to separate the substance. The plan was to separate the iron by using a magnet, adding the mixture to a small amount of water to skim off the plastic beads, filtering the mixture to separate the sand, and finally heating the salt water to recover the salt. Some safety cautions were addressed too. Students followed the instructions and solved the task in 40 minutes. The teachers mentioned that depending on the students' ability to plan an experiment, the lesson could be adapted. So if you have a high achievers, you may not hand out the record sheet. The last step of the 5E model was to evaluate. The teacher handed out cards with the original amount of each substance. In a table, the students compared the original amount with the amount they were able to regain. The amount that the student regained was smaller for sand and salt and bigger for iron and plastic beads than the original amount. This observation led to a discussion about a measurement error and the pureness of the substances. The students' success with the separation task was measured as follows. Pureness of the recovered substances and the weight of the substances. The group with substances that appears pure to the eye and had the smallest deviation from the original amount won. Here on page 5, there were some requirements and some anticipated difficulties and further aspects to consider. as well as the summary. For the requirements, the teacher said using a plastic beads that float on the water was one consideration that we have to make for this lesson. A difficulty for the student in this task was the recovery of the salt. Last, the author suggested that this lesson sequence is well suited to introduce, develop, and practice separation methods of substances and characteristics of scientific investigation. To sum it up, the students planned and experimented independently, put their own ideas into actions, tried out their own ideas, discussed them in class, and evaluated success in limits.